All right, boys. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, it's been a while. Sorry. Yeah, it's been a while. So, g'day, boys. How yous going? It's been a while. I'm looking forward to Wednesday night. Big shout out to Mark for coming down and coming over and having a bit of a catch up and chat. Really, really helped with where things are at. But I fully moved into Townsville, and so ready and raring to go in my next chapter in life as I closed a very long chapter in Canberra and Sydney. And so, but sometimes God works in mysterious ways, and so what I see is already things happening that I just needed to surrender to. So much love, Mark, for taking the time, brother, to catch up with us and really help unblock some areas that I've been stuck on. But I thought I'd just share some stuff with you that I've recently been working on in the background quietly. And I think this is going to help significantly with our waste to hydrogen facility. I know coming out the blue like this is a bit weird, but I figured I may as well just give you some idea about, if you don't already, these cogs in the back of this wheel. And I think there's a way that we can access funding and money, not even just funding, just actual money that we don't have to pay back. And I think it's actually really doable. So when the countries sign up to this climate change, there's a whole bunch of countries that are listed on this climate change thing. Each country has its own kind of department that regulates, or that are the regulators for climate change. One of them being the Australian government. Ours is the Clean Energy Regulators, right? They're a government initiative that manage all the climate change stuff. Now, the Clean Energy Regulators oversee this thing called the Emission Reduction Fund, right? And what they do is allocate or award carbon credit units to various projects that fit under its scheme, okay? And essentially what that means in a kind of roundabout way is over here we have big corporate, all right? Big corporate, like your mining companies, like your manufacturers, they're all exerting greenhouse gas emissions. And what they do, right, is, let's say if they exert 100 units or whatever of greenhouse gas emissions, big corporate then inside their country and internationally try to look for projects that are registered on this scheme and have carbon unit credits to sell, basically. Under the Clean Energy Regulation, under the ERF, there are 10 to 16 projects that the ERF will award carbon unit credits to, okay? One of them being renewable energy. I think we tick maybe 2 boxes, revegetation and all this sort of stuff. Renewable energy. And so essentially how it works is we go to the Australian carbon unit, credit unit scheme. We try to get our company registered, and these guys will give us, I guess, a per unit figure. And I think it's like anywhere from $35 up to $75, depending. We then sell those carbon unit credits to Big Corp, okay? and Big Corp buys that off of us and gives us the money to help offset their greenhouse gas emissions. So, let's say the government, and these are really bad figures, by the way, don't look at them. Let's say the government, the ERF, gives us 50 carbon unit credits on our waste to hydrogen facility. We can then sell that to Big Corp for 50 carbon unit credits. And so what they will report to the clean energy regulators, right, is, listen, we are putting in the air 100 greenhouse gas emissions, but we've funded a project over here that is got 50 carbon unit credits because of the work they're doing. So we've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by half a bit, 50%. And so we've reduced it down to 50. And that's how the clean energy regulators in Australia manage big corporations' greenhouse gas emissions. Now, a couple of players we need to be aware of, right? Carbon service providers. Now, these guys over here, there's a bunch of companies who do this. These guys over here are they're like the consulting company that works between the clean energy regulators, big corporate, to get your project registered. Now, essentially, they know what they're doing, they understand the space, and they know all the players in it. And it's sometimes easier going to a one-stop shop like a carbon service provider to get all of this done for you. All right? These guys will then submit a report. They'll do the registry for you. They'll go out and find brokers, and we'll come back and say, listen, we found Big Corp. They're going to give you $30 million over 25 years to put into the project. And, you know, your only commitment to that agreement is that you actually build the facility. Okay? It's free money that we don't have to, that we only have to report against the actions that we promise within that agreement, that we deliver on building this facility, because that facility will inadvertently give them carbon unit credits. We don't have to pay the money back. They will not take a investor stakeholdership in the company. They're not interested in that. Their interest is simply complying with the clean energy regulators. I think that this is a perfect setup to try and find our 30 mil that we need to get this stuff on board. Now, we have an audience with KRB, which is one of these carbon service providers that are up in North Queensland, who are probably the largest carbon service provider delivering this type of results for a lot of traditional owner groups up there. They are all Aboriginal elders who sit on very influential prescribed body corporates and traditional owner corporations that are very wealthy. And they basically got the entire, like most of the top end of Australia and all the traditional owners up there in a nutshell. Basically, this small CSP, they're called, this small CSP has around 50 million acres of land at their disposal and around $500 million that they have at their disposal through traditional owner groups. Now, I've had a conversation with these guys for us to have an audience with them to be able to get on the scheme and have these guys potentially, after our meeting, sign an MOU with these guys to operate on our behalf, right? If we sign with them, they're going to want a few things, right? The first thing they're going to want is generally they take a percentage of whatever they broker with big corporate for the sales of your carbon credit units, right? Normally it's around 15% that they negotiate. from what I say. But again, it's in my opinion free money that we didn't have to go get. So, I don't see that percentage as a problem. The second thing that they're going to want is that we work exclusively with them in getting this registered, and we sign with them, right? And what that means is that, let's say we come across a big corporate who need to offset their greenhouse gas emissions, that we bring them to this group and they negotiate on our behalf, right? So that's probably the second thing they're going to want. The third thing they're going to want, I believe, and they made this kind of known, they want a waste to hydrogen facility built up in North Queensland. And like I said, they've got about 50 million acres worth of land. That's just traditional owner land. They've probably got around a quarter or half of that, and about 12 different mine sites across the North Queensland, across the top end of Australia, where they've got a probably another 10 to 15 million acres on top of that as well. They're going to want to build a waste to hydrogen facility up north, and they were kind of pretty excited about what we're doing, but they were also pretty straightforward about wanting to build something of what we're trying to do in WA, also in Queensland. So not excluding what we're doing in Perth, but in addition to. And like I said, they've got the land and they've got the backing to make that happen. Now, I think that these guys are a pretty big player in the game, and we need kind of to meet with these guys. They're going to be super hard on us. They're going to be very, they're going to like probably harder than anybody else. Reason being, because that's my dad and that's my uncle, right? And Leonard, as far as what you know, is that our dads don't really give us a break. They're going to make us work super hard to prove that we believe we should have a seat at the table. They're going to really grind us on that. So again, what I could promise is an audience with these men, they're probably going to outline a few things. And again, these guys sit on some of the most powerful and influential prescribed body corporates and native title, traditional owner group organisations in the top end, and also in the centre. Other players we need to understand are the people that are within government who sit in these roles. And I think at one point the person who oversaw the ERF, the ACCU scheme, and all of these projects, these guys, I think they may be the one person, I'm not sure, but I think it's becoming a little more, it's picked up a lot of pace since the years it's been implemented. And I believe they're starting to break it down into regional managers. So depending on what region you sit in, there would be a contact person for your region and then so forth. But again, these guys will want to deal with them, but it'd be good for us to know and have introductions. The other one is big corps. For most of these big corps that do administer greenhouse gas emissions, they will have a person who oversees their the regulatory stuff around that. So they will work with the Australian government in their reporting, and they are out there trying to look for opportunities to offset their greenhouse gas emissions. I believe we already met this guy for Qantas, and he sat down and did a pitch, and he has a fund. And what these guys told me, what Dad told me, he said, look, some of these companies are just volunteering their money, but you've got to be able to provide them with a kind of carbon credit units. So I think that this is the missing piece, and I think it's one of the reasons why we didn't get any momentum with Qantas, because we're needing to get our project registered with the Australian government. And I think it's really important that this is our next steps in moving forward, because if we're able to get our waste to hydrogen facility registered and get administered Australian carbon credit units, then I think we would start to look very attractive to big corporate who have a regulatory requirement to invest money into projects that give them max return on their carbon credit units. So I guess that's what I feel for me personally. With your permission, I would love to start to really work on over the next 6 to 12 months is getting Gevolve's waste to hydrogen facility registered and bringing in, your JBM groups, your Qantas and that into KRB and getting them to kind of close on that whole carbon credit units. And we might end up with some real millies that's actually going to be kind of legit. The second thing is work with KRB, with your permission, and traditional owner groups up in North Queensland to see if we can really access land and this money to get a second facility built up in North Queensland. And by the looks of it, and the information I've gotten back from KRB, we might be able to do this quicker than what we think. I know I go missing every now and then, but when I turn up, I move relatively fast, hopefully. But this sounds like, for me, a step we need to take a direction in. But I'm open to your advice, my brothers, because again, I've been out of a lot of meetings and need a good update. And so, much love to yous, and God bless.